All right, here is section 4.5, day 2, number 6. Sketch the graph of the function, include 2 full periods. So we have 4 cosine of x plus pi over 4. Okay, going through this, figure out your a value. Your a value is your amplitude, and that's going to be 4. It's just that first number you see in front of the trig function. Your b value is always going to be the number right in front of x. In this case, it's just an imaginary 1. At this point, you can kind of talk about your period. Okay, the formula for that is 2 pi over b. So this is going to be 2 pi over 1, which is just going to be 2 pi. Then let's go to the interval. Okay, we want to figure out how far apart these x values are on the x-axis. So I'm going to take my period, and I always divide it by 4. So everything is going to be pi over 2 apart from each other. Now let's figure out our left endpoint and right endpoint. Okay, for left endpoint, you set your angle equal to 0. The whole thing inside the parentheses is your angle. Set that equal to 0. And you're going to get x is equal to negative pi over 4. Right endpoint, set that angle equal to 2 pi. Okay, because usually our left endpoint is 0, usually our right endpoint is 2 pi, but here we're just shifting it a little bit. Okay, so then when you minus pi over 4, we would need a common denominator. So multiply by 4 over 4, and we'll get 8 pi over 4 minus pi over 4. I believe that's going to be x is equal to 7 pi over 4. Okay, so we're starting at negative pi over 4. We are going to end at 7 pi over 4. Okay, now how your graph is set up, you know, it's just kind of right down the middle here. And I'll try and make mine very similar. Okay, so I'm going to start at negative pi over 4. Okay, so that's going to be about right here, negative pi over 4. When I increase negative pi over 4 by pi over 2, okay, because that's going to be my interval, multiply by 2 over 2, that's going to be negative pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4, that's going to be positive pi over 4. So positive pi over 4 is my next point, not 0. A lot of times it is 0. Okay, so that'd be positive pi over 4. Okay, add another 2 pi over 4. That's going to be 3 pi over 4. Okay, so about right there, 3 pi over 4. Then another 2 pi over 4 would be 5 pi over 4. And then 7 pi over 4. And technically, that'll be 1 period. If I wanted to keep going, I think I probably could. Let's see how many you guys have there. Yeah, I could go to the right or the left. Let's go left. Okay, this is going to be negative 3 pi over 4, negative 5 pi over 4, negative 7 pi over 4. I think I'm going to need negative 9 pi over 4, negative 9 pi over 4 to make 2 full periods. Okay, because I should have, let's see, starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. Okay, yeah, that'll work. All right, so when I go to pi over 4, negative pi over 4, and I plug that into my original function, that's going to be the cosine of 0, which is 1. And then I'm going to have to take that times 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so. All right, then I go to pi over 4. That's going to be the cosine of pi over 4 plus pi over 4. That's 2 pi over 4, or pi over 2. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0. Okay, the next one, 3 pi over 4, is going to be 4 pi over 4. So that's going to be the cosine of pi. That's negative 1 times 4 is going to be negative 4. Okay, and then I think I'm just going to keep going back up all the way like that. So here's 1 period of this graph right there. Okay, for the second period, I'm just going to continue on. Negative 3 pi over 4 is going to be down to 0. Negative 5 pi over 4 is going to be down at negative 4. Then I have back up to 0 for negative 7 pi over 4. And then for this last one, it's going to be up to positive 4. Okay, and then here is my second period. Notice that is just kind of a copy and paste of what we had the first time there. And that should do it. I might want to make my x-axis or y-axis here a little bit better there, but that should be it.